All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Jessica Gadbois. I am the Acumatica Practice Director at WM Synergy, formerly Synergy Resources, for those of you that know us. I'm very, very excited to be here today. I'm a longtime member and fan of the Acumatica community, and I get to talk about something I'm very passionate about today, which is the manufacturing industry. As always, I like to start with why I'm qualified to talk about what I'm here to talk about today. So I will talk a little bit about that, and then I'll talk about really what we've found on the ground with our customers this year mainly. And those happen to be manufacturing customers. So whether you are an Acumatica partner or an Acumatica customer, really welcome you here and hope you can learn something today and really implement it in your business if you find it valuable. So let's get started, and I do appreciate everyone kind of the round of applause, or I guess round of introductions, I should say, that I see in the chat, people all over the country and even all over the world. So I appreciate you being here. Um, I mentioned that I'm a longtime member of the Acumatica community. I was formerly with Acumatica, and I joined WM Synergy as their practice director about 2 years ago now. Some of you on the line have even asked me, what is WM Synergy and why did you leave Acumatica to start something new? I would love to tell you a little bit about that story. And also, I would also like to remind you about our sponsor today. This is Avalara. Many of you know and love Avalara, excuse me, but they have an automated tax compliance solution that is embedded and integrated with Acumatica. But even more exciting for the day is that they're also auctioning off, or I guess giving away, a Yeti cooler, not auctioning off. Otherwise, I would be putting in my bid. I cannot win the cooler, but you can. So good luck to you, my friends. And thank you, Avalara, for the sponsorship. So what are we here to talk about? These are a number of trends that in really 30 minutes I will go through today. We could talk about many, many of these trends that we've seen over the last year and over the last several years, but I've picked a few of them that stand out to me, and particularly how Acumatica can help with some of those trends. So who are we and who am I? As I mentioned, I'm Jessica, and I really have been passionate about the manufacturing industry for close to 8 years now. The story goes a little something like this. An old boss of mine by the name of Doug Johnson was looking for someone on the Acumatica team to learn this new manufacturing edition that they had come upon. And he said, "Do I have any volunteers for someone to learn this?" And I said, "I will." And the rest is history. Ever since then, I've really been very involved in the manufacturing world, in fact, with many of you that are on the line today. And then I joined Synergy as what I think was a very, WM Synergy, excuse me, we recently went through a merger, what I think was a very logical next step in my career. WM Synergy is an organization that really focuses mainly on manufacturing and also distribution as well. We have about 1,800 customers. Again, the majority of those manufacturing customers. We were Acumatica's fastest growing partner this year, which I'm super proud of. But also there's another manufacturing ERP out there that's very well known, which we've also been partner of the year for about 13 out of the last 14 years. So when I say, why are we qualified to talk about manufacturing? This is why. We spend all of our time in this world, our consultants, our salespeople, our pre-sales people, and I'm very excited to share with you what some of those findings have been on the ground this year. All of you know Acumatica, but I think when it comes to the manufacturing world, there's a lot more that manufacturing businesses are looking for beyond just an ERP software. And for me personally, when I decided to join WM Synergy, our center of excellence was a big part of this. As a value-added reseller, WM Synergy is designed to cater to the manufacturing market. And you'll see a lot of the different examples here that come from our center of excellence. Again, why are we qualified to talk about manufacturing? Well, we're sitting down every day and talking to companies about their ISO certifications and FDA compliance and how we can help them utilize their software to get there. We're sitting down with companies every day in our center of excellence and talking about, what's coming with CMMC, what is coming and how can we be more lean when we're experiencing what we're experiencing in the supply chain, or even going the other way, needing to stock up more inventory because we just can't keep up with that demand in the supply chain. These are a lot of real life examples, but also real life services that we are providing to our customers that is allowing us to gather this feedback, and then I can share it with all of you. So the first trend, which is why all of you are here, that we are seeing very, very often in the manufacturing world this year, and really with a lot of companies, including ours, has to be around PE acquisitions and also consolidations. M&A, all of these fine terms that we hear, but many, many companies, particularly companies that do manage inventory or are making something, are seeing ways to save money or make more money, or by combining or growing and finding a niche industry that they can perhaps digitize, transform, and have them take over these manufacturing industries that tend to be a little bit older. So we're seeing this very, very, very often. They're doing this because they want to reduce costs. They want to get their marketing reach out to a greater volume of people, which is a newer thing, I believe, in the manufacturing world, at least for a lot of the small to medium-sized businesses. And they're also looking for ways to make sure that they can strengthen those supply chains. If they were once doing contract manufacturing, maybe they'll buy up that contract manufacturer to strengthen their own supply chain. Maybe they have one or two key vendors that they might look at acquiring to strengthen that supply chain. These are very logical things that we are seeing out there with our customers, and that probably aren't, huge surprises to you. Acumatica, of course, multi-entity, multi-site, can help you to roll out to these new locations quickly if you are going through perhaps a merger, similar to we did recently. But how can companies really take advantage of this? And I have a story in just a moment that I'll share with you about one of our customers who has done exactly that. And that's on my next slide. Excuse me. So Acumatica we see really as a way to keep low IT overhead costs for this business or these businesses that are utilizing this trend. If any of you that have been involved in this world for a long time, you know what happens when two companies merge together or maybe are acquired. There is a whole lot of new systems. There is a need to consolidate and connect those systems. And frankly, they're looking for ways to save costs all along the way. So that SaaS model when rolling out huge sites becomes hugely important. And also the fact that Acumatica is multi-company, multi-site, You're not paying to add a new company. You're implementing that new company, of course, through a new implementation, but the software itself lends itself very, very nicely to those complex changing environments. We're seeing this very often, and frankly, we're using it as a way to earn more Acumatica customers' business. And also for those of you that are manufacturers going through the same things, to help them capitalize on a lot of these investments that they may not realize are on the table when it comes to Acumatica. So one customer that I would like to share with all of you. I just mentioned who they are. They are called CaneCast. So I'll tell their story in a moment. But this is actually a picture from when I went on site to visit them. For those of you that have ever been to a foundry, and that is what we're looking at here. CaneCast does casting and molding. They are essentially a foundry that is taking all of these different pieces of metal and aluminum and melting them down in these big, big vats here, pouring and creating parts. And as you can see, it is a pretty dirty environment. So that's what we're talking about when we say CaneCast. This is their business at heart, but how it relates to the revolutionizing and really this trend that I just mentioned of PE's acquisitions and mergers. CaneCast is one of our manufacturing customers that is digitizing the foundry industry. And we really like this story. We talk about this story often because I think it's kind of the perfect Acumatica customer profile. They're a manufacturer. They're growing very quickly. They're transforming their industry through mergers and acquisitions, mainly through acquisitions. What they do is they buy these small foundries. As you can see, these are small, often mom and pop companies, maybe family run businesses that have been around for a long time, and they're scattered all over the country. They have limited IT resources. They have limited skilled labor, which we'll talk more about. And really, it was time for this industry to transform itself. And that is what CaneCast is doing. They go to these different foundries, they try to acquire them using a business plan to explain how they'll transform them. And Acumatica is a big, big part of that. So we're really proud of this customer. And here's a quote that is from their president, Josh. Josh talks about the obstacles that they've seen in the manufacturing world this year and what they're doing to respond to that. So allow me to read this. I don't generally read off a slide, but I think it's important here. Josh says the largest, if I could read it, number one, the largest obstacles for us have been in managing costs amid a declining sales environment, as well as managing our quotes, and costs have changing the cost attribution of our production process. Another wrench in this has been continued expansion through those acquisitions that I just mentioned a moment ago, which also brings overhead changes. Rebuilding for the next sales leg up shifts overhead to temporarily high, meaning you are tight as can be on optional OPEX. We've taken this slower time to rebuild much of the things that were wrong during the COVID supply boom. This includes understanding their processes better so they can make better decisions, costing and quoting and paying much closer attention to that. Any of you that were in Jeremy's session earlier know cash is king. Investing in the sales team, investing in customer service and data availability. And ultimately, Acumatica is the tool to do all of that. It is core and central for all of these things in an expanding, growing, quickly growing manufacturing business. And it gives Josh that visibility into all of those things. The profitability, his costs, his material use, his OPEX, and it tells him when he needs to make important decisions that can help him to focus on areas that can make him more cash at the end of the day. If they see, a major trend downward and they understand that they need to reprice something, they can do that. And you'll see my trend has shifted a little bit here. We're not only talking about, those PE acquisitions and mergers, but that increased focus on metrics and reporting is what this particular company, but a lot of our manufacturing companies are spending much more time on. Again, a lot of these companies have been around for a long time, doing things the same way. So they might not have these strong metrics and reports that they need. Acumatica gives you all of that. So again, if you were in perhaps Jeremy Patoka's session earlier, which I just happened to be in, he talked about a lot of these things. You're sitting on a gold mine, in my opinion. You may be using some of these things. I can guarantee you're probably not using all of them. So just keep in mind what you have at your fingertips, your dashboards, your generic inquiries, your business events. How valuable would it be, manufacturers on the line today, if you could get a notification to your cell phone when a PO was delivered that your shop floor was waiting on to start an order? Possible. A lot is possible. And those are the types of things that can truly help to speed up production, truly help you to cut costs in places that you might not be paying attention to. If these orders are late time after time again, because we don't know the parts are there, maybe something as simple as a notification can really be a small change you can make today to do a little bit better tomorrow. Anyway, there's a lot here that you can take advantage of on the reporting and metric side. I think side tables are hugely underutilized inside of Acumatica, side panels. I'll show you an example of one that we've created for our manufacturing customers a bit later in my presentation. And there's also several add-ons out there that I'm sure you know about. Velixo, DataSelf, these very, very advanced business intelligence tools, especially something like DataSelf that has lots and lots of canned dashboards that you can choose which do you want, plug them in, and turn them on. Velixo, a very low-cost solution that someone like me, anyone can take advantage of if you know Excel and you know Acumatica. Cash is king. Go out there, find it. Acumatica is a gold mine of tools. Take advantage of them. Next trend. What are we seeing? Industry certifications, yes, they've always been around in manufacturing, but we're really seeing them pop up more often, and we're seeing them as absolute competitive advantages with our customers. We are talking about ISO certifications. We are talking about FDA compliance. We are talking about CMMC, which is going to be required for many industries. And again, have these things been around? Yes. Have we always had an answer for them? No, not in the Acumatica world. So what are we doing about it? First and foremost, the competitive advantage here is customers demand this quality in their own supply chain. So if you can do something as, well, not simple, but if you can do something like stamp the ISO logo on your website, that's a really big deal. That is showing that you have a high trusted level of quality in your business, and it often can get those customers or vendors to come back time and time again. They're demanding that now. It's becoming something that's not an option. And we're also seeing a lot of these things being forced into many industries. Food and beverage, we know there's new industries popping up all over the place. The CBD industry, I'm sure there's starting to be new regulations in that world. These are all things that we have to pay attention to, especially for a VAR like us that focuses on manufacturing. And it's our job to help these manufacturers obtain these certifications in many instances. So what can you consider? eWorkplace. If you're a manufacturer out there and you have not heard about eWorkplace, they have developed some extremely strong add-on modules for Acumatica, one being process manufacturing that can really help companies looking to achieve FDA compliance. They also have their advanced quality module that really just adds a huge amount of quality, automation, workflow, and compliance to the Acumatica system. So if you are or you're dealing with companies that are in, A&D, food and beverage, medical device, chemicals, you name it, these things are popping up all over the place. They have an actual required need to implement this module. So if you do not know eWorkplace yet in their advanced quality, please go out and learn about it. They also happen to offer an FDA validation service. I learned this year. For those of you that didn't know that, eWorkplace, one of our ISV partners in the Acumatica community, offers an FDA validation service. So if you have a prospect that is not only looking to come on to Acumatica or an existing customer, but now they're ready to get to that next level of FDA validation, eWorkplace might be the way that you get that customer in the door or get them to their next level of success. So keep it in mind. Our organization happens to offer a number of these services. I mentioned earlier, we help companies achieve ISO compliance and some of these other topics like CMMC that you see on my last line here. And organizations like JAMIS tend to focus on creating an environment for manufacturers that allow them to be more compliant with government contractors. But we're seeing a lot of these new regulations around CMMC and ITAR. So a little birdie told me that Acumatica may be moving this way soon, and JAMIS can absolutely help with that in the meantime for those of you that are not aware of that Acumatica partner. So industry certifications, definitely a trend that we've kept our eye on this year. Next, I'm going to talk about supply chain for a moment. Yes, Jessica, we all know the supply chain is still messy. It's recovering in many places we're seeing. The costs are still very high. The lead times are still very unpredictable in many cases. What happens in this regard? We know that a lot of these long lead time parts that we are seeing trapped in the supply chain mess somewhere, they're impacting on-time delivery rates. They're impacting customer promise dates as well as a direct result. They're affecting customer satisfaction. And yes, we all make the same excuse, well, the supply chain, and we laugh about it, but what are you actually doing to try to make it better for your organization? To try to ensure that you don't have to bring too much inventory in just in case you might need it for that order that you might get 3 months from now. A lot of organizations I mentioned are bringing in a lot more inventory now. We're seeing that time and time again, and that's driving up their material holding costs very, very high. What can you do? Here are some ideas that we have taken advantage of with our customers, but particularly with acuMatica. These are not, I don't believe this is not rocket science, or what does my friend Eric Moreau say? Rocket surgery, I think is the joke he makes. I can't remember. But anyway, these are things that you all know and love. Attributes, user-defined fields, generic inquiries, business events. But are you taking advantage of them? And are you taking advantage of them in ways that are impactful for the business? Examples. This is a view we created for several of our customers, actually. And what we're doing here is we're just giving the ability to look into the manufacturing production process. So we're looking at a bill of materials broken out here, but we're also looking at demand at the same time. So we're seeing every part required to make this finished good. We're seeing in bright red the items that we don't have on hand to make it right now. I see lead times. If it is something that is a long lead time, we identify that with an attribute and we call that out in bright red as well. We send that notification to somebody's smartphone if you need to, or maybe just an email and let them know we have a long lead time part that is out there. This could seriously affect our backlog if we don't get it soon. Please follow up with that vendor to see when it will be here. Those types of things do make a very impactful difference. We have one customer, a manufacturing customer, that did not get that type of notification before they used acuMatica. They missed a long lead time part. It affected their backlog for 3 whole months because they couldn't get it. It was brakes specifically, and they were making very large ride-on lawnmowers and tractors. So without brakes, you can't make tractors, and their whole production process stalled. By flagging these parts, getting those reminders, they're now following up with those vendors, and at least, okay, let's go somewhere else, order that from a different vendor in the meantime to ensure my entire production process is not getting shut down. This is something you can implement today and have a major impact. You'll also see a side panel on the right-hand side of our screen, my screen. I think this is a hugely underutilized feature in acuMatica, and this is actually now taking this BOM that's broken out, and we see in this example, it's has the subassembly line highlighted here. So it also shows me the subassemblies associated with it, and then I can get additional information on if I have that particular sub in stock, the components required for that sub, etc. So this goes down many, many layers. And I just think we all think here at WM Synergy that these types of things can really help manufacturers to help with those supply chain issues that they're all dealing with. And then, of course, shout out to our partner SourceDay. For those of you that know SourceDay, this is a very advanced collaborative supply chain automation solution. They can tell you all about that. They are really, really a strong WM Synergy partner that we've worked with for many, many years. So if you are really dealing with supplier collaboration issues, late purchase orders, communication with vendors, getting messy, look at SourceDay. It could be a way to, again, help you out with some of those supply chain woes. Labor shortages. I did talk about this a moment ago, and yes, I said we all know labor shortages continue. We all know supply chain issues continue. This is, again, not probably news to anybody, but manufacturers really get hit very, very hard in this labor shortage issue that we're having. And really skilled-based manufacturers get hit probably the hardest. They have a very, very hard time finding skilled labor and resources, not only to bring on and train, but then retain. It's a huge issue, and I don't even want to call it a trend. It's a problem that we're seeing with our customers. How does Acumatica help with that? Ease of use. I can't stress this enough that the next generation of business owners will require an easy to use ERP, period. It won't be an option anymore. They won't settle for old legacy on-premise software. I can say it because I'm part of this generation. They expect flexible technology. They expect true cloud. They expect something that is easy to navigate and easy to learn. Talk more about that in a minute. That also brings greater ROI. So when we're talking about labor shortages, but maybe you're also trying to sell or buy an ERP, talk about this as far as ROI. Manufacturers are scared to learn new software. If you are one of them, you know that that is very much a true statement. If you can give them something that is easy to use, really get those employees to trust you, that this is something that they will be able to learn and make their day-to-day better. That is hugely important as it relates to labor shortages, retaining employees, and training employees on new software. I will talk more about that in a minute. Increased technology adoption. We see this as also a direct result of the labor shortages. Organizations, particularly manufacturers, are understanding they can't do it the way that they've always done it, and they're investing in technology to help them change things. One example, a company we worked with this year, they physically had a pipe, still do because we're still implementing Acumatica there. They had a pipe from their sales floor that they would write on the sales order, shoot it down this physical pipe to their production team, and then the production team would let them know that they got the sales order. This is the old way. This is unnecessary. We can digitize this. We can make it something simple that pops up in real time on a dashboard. These are needed things when we don't have enough people and when people are running the business instead of systems and processes running the business. So definitely seeing a lot more of that. I know I just have a few more minutes here, so I would like to talk about succession planning for a moment. This is probably a scary phrase for some of you, but it is without a doubt one of the most common trends we are seeing with manufacturers this year. About 80% of the manufacturers that we have worked with this year alone have either brought it up themselves or very much agreed with us that they need to be actively considering succession planning. There are a lot of, family-owned, multi-generation manufacturing companies out there, and they're getting ready to pass these down. And if they're not getting ready, they're behind. Again, the new generation of business owners will demand something like Acumatica that is going to make that business better. They won't use the same software that has been there for 30 years. They won't accept it. So ensuring that when we are talking about planning for the future, of course, the technology is part of that, but also the process design becomes part of that as well. Moving that from tribal knowledge of individual people to processes that can be documented, digitized, and trained very, very easily. That is what we see as a huge, huge factor for a lot of these manufacturing companies. Probably the last thing I'll say today. This is actually one of the core values of WM Synergy. We have about 5 key pillars or key values that our company stands on. And this is actually one of them. It says, be allergic to the way you've always done it. And I take this, to heart. I take it very seriously every day. I think I brought even that during my time at Acumatica. I've always tried to, challenge folks to look at things differently. And now that I'm with WM Synergy and we're really spending more time with manufacturing companies, distribution companies, I get to do that every day. Manufacturers, they don't want to change in many cases. There's a lot of pride in this industry. These organizations have been successful for a reason. So to come in there and tell them it's time to change, it's not always acceptable, and it has to be done in a way that is exciting for them and makes sense to them. So the last thing that I'll leave you with is that if you are a manufacturer or a manufacturing VAR like me, be allergic to the way you have always done it. If you've always done a fixed fee, try something else. Or excuse me, if you've always done T&M, try a fixed fee. We've done it with manufacturers and they love it. We're hearing about automation and robotics and AI. Are you exploring them with your manufacturing companies? They want you to be, or they might not even know that they want you to be. So we do have, this is a shameless plug, there's an event coming up outside of Austin, Texas, if any of you are in the area. That customer CaneCast I talked about at the beginning today. We would love to see you. We'll be talking about these things, more on manufacturing trends and particularly robotics, AI, a lot of these items that we're hearing about in the world of manufacturing in 2023. So with that said, I appreciate your time very, very much. If anyone needs me or has questions or comments, my email address is up on the screen for you right here. As always, have a wonderful acuCONNECT 2023, and I look forward to seeing and speaking to you very, very soon. Thank you, everybody.